Hello everybody, my name is Donnie, and today we are reading A History of US Volume C, Chapter 32, called Some Bad Ideas. Here we go. The election of 1896 was history. Bryan went on to run for president again and again and never made it. He became better known than some of the men who did become president. And what of the populists? What happened to them? Tom Watson was right. Their party was dead. Not quite buried, but almost. And Tom Watson? If only I didn't have to write the truth about Tom Watson, for his is a tragic story. Remember young idealistic Tom Watson, who began his political career by doing something for no other party leader was doing, calling on blacks and whites to unite? For a while it happened. He brought the races together. When a black populist leader was threatened by the racist Ku Klux Klan, Watson called for help. More than 1,000 farmers came in buggies and on horseback. This was the 19th century South, and these were white farmers rushing to the aid of a black man. And here's a picture down here of the Ku Klux Klan. Next page, which is page 157. The farmers... by the way, sorry, my screen is a little laggy today, so expect some pauses between pages. But here's the second page. The farmers stacked their guns on Tom Watson's porch and made it clear that they would not allow a lynching. The Klansmen got the message. There was no more trouble. But the People's Party failed. It was too bad, since so many populist ideas were soon accepted by both Republicans and Democrats. Tom Watson took 8 years off from politics and wrote books and thought and brooded and came out a lesser man. Tom Watson ended his days as a bigot. He had been a champion of the common people. He became enamored of white supremacy, prestige, and power. When he died, the largest bunch of flowers at his funeral came from the Ku Klux Klan. By the turn of the century, the Ku Klux Klan was a large, powerful, and widespread organization. It was not confined to the rural South, as some people imagined. Watson wasn't the only populist leader to take up bigoted theories. Sadly, it was a time when many Americans, and people in their nations too, took racism seriously. They were grappling with difficult problems. Life was unsettling in this age of extremes. In America, everyone could see that something was wrong, and not just on the farm. People were becoming too materialistic, too concerned with money and things. The economic system wasn't working well. Industry was ravaging the nation's resources. Thomas Jefferson's agrarian, farm-centered world was vanishing, and a new world of corporations and capitalists didn't seem very noble. For the most part, presidents and congresses were weak and money mandates, and the city bosses strong. Railroads and new industries had changed the nation. Laws and ideas hadn't caught up. Some people had a simple solution to the new problems. They blamed others. First, they blamed the rich. Actually, the rich industrialists were no different from the poor farmers. Many were greedy, but so are many ordinary people. Some industrialists like Carnegie and Rockefeller, who had abused and exploited others to gain power and wealth, were doing a surprisingly good job of sharing their wealth. When blaming the rich didn't work, people looked for other scapegoats. Unfortunately, many turned racist. Some were anti-Catholic, some were anti-Semitic, which means they blamed Jews for their problems. Many Americans became anti-immigrant. Immigrants were competing for jobs. One populist leader called them foreign scum. Some were anti-black. It was at this time that, next page, the southern states wrote new constitutions that took the vote away from most whites and from most blacks, and poor whites. On the West Coast, many citizens were anti-Asian. Some Americans lost their way. Their wrong-headedness would hurt the nation. They didn't mean to be wrong. Few do. They were trying to define America, but it was as if they had decided to look through a telescope the wrong way. They narrowed the vision. They were looking backward to a past they thought was ideal. But things had never been quite the same as they imagined them. They thought America had once been just a nation of Protestant English farmers. They forgot all about the Native Americans who had been a majority and who arrived on the continent thousands of years before the first Europeans. They forgot about the Spaniards who had settled in Florida and South Carolina and New Mexico and Texas and California. They forgot the Poles, Italians, and Africans who had helped to create Jamestown. They forgot the Swedes in Delaware and the French in Louisiana. They forgot the Catholics in Maryland and the Jews in New Amsterdam. They didn't know their American history. Those 19th century bigots, who we call nativists, were ignorant. They forgot that it was our English ancestors who had come up with the idea that all people are created equal. It was that revolutionary idea that was attracting immigrants to America from all over the world. Because of that idea, America was attempting something amazing. We were taking peasants from German farms, children from Poland's shtetls, laborers from China's countryside, Italians from Naples' fishing boats, and former slaves from southern plantations, and expecting them to all get along together. Of course, it wasn't easy. Revolutionary ideas never are. One thing neither the populists, nor the Democrats, nor the Republicans understood was that the emerging political forces, the immigrants and the newly freed blacks, were helping to build a more fair and far richer America. But that wasn't clear to anyone at the end of the 19th century. Also, shtetl is a Yiddish word meaning a village. You see shtetl in Poland's shtetls. Now, more goods, more challenges. What do you do when you need a shirt? You go to the store and buy one. Before the Civil War, you couldn't do that. Your mother or someone in the family had to make your shirt. If you had plenty of money, you could go to a tailor and have a shirt made especially for you. During the Civil War, soldiers' uniforms were needed in a hurry, so uniforms were made in many sizes in factories. It was amazing. Almost anyone could find something to fit. After the war, manufacturers started making clothing for civilians, people who weren't in the military. In the cities, new department stores began selling factory-made clothes, shoes, and things for the house and garden. Do you remember how you felt when you were little and you went into a big toy store for the first time? That's the way most Americans felt when they first entered a department store. The people who couldn't get to big city stores weren't left out. They could buy factory goods too, because of Montgomery Ward's smart idea. Ward decided to sell merchandise through the mail. He printed a catalog that showed pictures of the items, like this one, picture on the right side, he had for sale. Soon, another company, Sears, Roebuck, was doing the same thing. If you had the money, here are some items you could order from the 1909 Sears Roebuck catalog, known as the Wish Book. Men's two-piece bathing suit for $2.25, bathing trunks for kids at 20 cents. Official National League baseball is at 75 cents, and White Lily face wash, the ladies' favorite as they called it, at 37 cents per bottle. The new department stores and the new catalogs brought wonders to the American household. Suddenly, everyone wanted products from American factories. These factories soon led the world with their good products and low prices. Now, everyone could go to a store and buy a fine suit or dress. When Americans got off their boats, all they had to do was go into a store to look American. Factories changed the way people lived and the way they worked. Thomas Jefferson had wanted Americans to stay agrarian. The word agrarian means farm-based. He wanted the United States to be a nation of small farmers who would have little need for government regulations. But there was no one keeping the Industrial Revolution out of America. In 1920, half of all Americans lived in cities or towns. By then, the United States was the leading industrial nation in the world, with 9 million factory workers. Most of the factories were in cities or big towns. A new immigrant could get off the boat at Ellis Island, head for New York or Chicago or Cincinnati, and quickly find a job. A farm boy or girl from Iowa or Wisconsin could head for the city and find a world of activity, and a job too. The United States wasn't ready for the changes that cities and industry brought. There were new situations and problems that had not been faced before. At the beginning of the 20th century, we were the greatest industrial power in the world, but a huge gap opened, a chasm between the opportunities available to rich Americans and to rural and urban poor. Giving everyone a chance, that was the great challenge to a nation that prided itself on its founding documents, which were all about fairness and equality of opportunity. And ladies and gentlemen, that is it for chapter 32, Some Bad Ideas. Next chapter you will be reading is chapter 33, called Harvest at Haymarket. Thank you guys for watching. Don't click on this button. And thanks for watching.